Hi, my name is Ariel from the Children of Karma, and today I'd like to discuss the partial lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces at 4 degrees on August 28th, 2026. Mars is still out of bounds, so it's wanting to move independently of the past, especially in the sign of Cancer. So it's highlighting old patterns, bad habits, potentially fear-based connections, outdated self-protection methods. This full moon is approaching a T-square to Uranus, and this mini grand trine is still in effect. The sun is making its square to Uranus now in this chart, but on May 22nd of 2026, we had the sun conjunct Uranus in the sign of Gemini. So how do those themes repeat themselves? This square here is a disruption from external forces, creating anxiety, but forcing you to adapt to them. Maybe the conjunction is where we were the disruption and where we were bringing the chaos, and this square here can be the pushback from the outside. Health issues are possible with the sun and moon square Uranus in a health-conscious sign of Virgo. Work-related issues with Mercury ruling Gemini and Virgo, a planet focused on business. Potentially there's push-pull between stability and freedom. This could lead to burnout. Maybe suddenly quitting or layoffs, clashes with authority, stress-induced illnesses, food-related digestive issues. The moon will approach a trine to Mars later in the day. The moon is also conjunct asteroids Astraea and Diana. Astraea being the goddess of innocence. During the Golden Age, she would gather the elders of the community and tell stories of nature, about its cycles, and how to properly care for the earth at particular times of the year. When the humans descended into madness during the Iron Age, she left. The last immortal to support the humans to stay behind with them. And at first she can seem judgmental, critical, but everyone has their limits for what they can handle. She sets a boundary here. She can't take any more, so she leaves. Diana, goddess Diana, is also conjunct this moon. She's related to Artemis in myth, and she helps her mother Leto give birth to Apollo on the island of Delos. So she's tied to the moon, and she's tied to birthing as well through this process. Her name, she's also tied to Lucina, Juno and Diana. Diana Lucina. Lucina means the light. Bringing something from the darkness into the light to birth something. And as soon as Diana is birthed, she helps her mother to birth her brother Apollo. She acts as a midwife right after she's born. So she rules over transitions, space between our world and the other world. And it's representing the crescent moon, so transitions. And so both Astraea and Diana are boundary crossers. They set strong personal limits against this outside intrusion. And Diana through wilder means because she's the huntress. And Astraea through walking out, just leaving, setting her boundary this way. So we may have to set some boundaries with the effects of this Uranus square, whatever this chaos may be here, this hidden information that can come to light, potentially betrayals with our partnerships, could be health issues. Health issues we must set very strong boundaries with. We typically use the spoon analogy to visualize our energy level. And we only have so many spoons that we can feed others with our energy, our life force. And sometimes a health problem can take up to 80% of your spoons. So you may have to make sure the people in your life, they're not asking for more than 20% without restoring your strength in some way. And sometimes people do this, especially Even when you're sick, they still do this. But it's not like we have our energy percentage levels listed above our heads, like in a video game. So we have to set those boundaries with our words. Gemini and Virgo, they're both ruled by Mercury. Our words, our communication. Mercury is conjunct the sun here, but it's combust. But it's in a sign that it rules. So there is some confusion about how it would behave, um, seeing that it is in domicile, but um, it is combust. I think even the sun, I mean, when it's, unless it's in that Cazimi position, the 17 arc minutes away from the sun, it seems to be a negative. It seems to be the closeness to the sun is a negative to burn it away. Also, this Mercury is square Uranus as well, so it could be saying shocking things, and it's the dispositor for both of these signs. So this is using our language. Jupiter is the dispositor for this moon, approaching a trine to Saturn, and it will perfect that trine before Mars perfects its square to Saturn. And Saturn is dominant in both of these aspects with Jupiter and with Mars. So it could be the implementation of a law, maybe safety related, health related, because Hygeia has been lingering around Jupiter since the last moon. And Saturn has been sitting with Alpheratz at 14 degrees Aries for such a long time. The health of the king, the health of the crops and the land, but wanting independence and freedom. This Mars square will challenge whatever is coming from this Jupiter trine Saturn. And it's interesting because Saturn is Kronos, the father of Zeus, Jupiter. And Saturn is dominant in both of these aspects. So the dad is dominant here. But Mars sitting in Cancer, not very happy. Although I will take this Mars into battle, even though it's in Cancer. This time Mars seems to mean business because it's moving in forward motion all year. There's no fear. It's revving its engines. A car being fueled by water, emotions of our past. The moon is also conjunct Deneb Adige and royal fixed star Fomalhaut. They both have a Venus-Mercury nature. Deneb Adige is the tail of the swan, and it has clever intellect, a quick thinker, can be psychic or intuitive, gains through artistic or scientific pursuits, an idealist, but a likable person, dreamy and cultured, adaptable. They can seem unstable and unstable emotions. Their talents can develop late. There's a love of water and the arts. They're brave. They're willing to try new things. And they have this refined sense of intuition. And if they are following a spiritual path, they're led to abundance. And they have a tendency to be inclined to lust. Fomalhaut is the mouth of the southern fish, the watcher of the south. So with the royal fixed stars, we call into question the integrity of everything that we do here. And in mundane and political affairs, it seems to be a malefic star. It calls to the unpredictable nature of military operations. But personally in your chart, it's about talent, will to speak out whenever necessary, and to contribute new ideas when they're needed. And it can help release us from the past as well, perhaps through pursuits in arts and science and tech. Or it can swing in a negative way. It can be self-created problems. I'd like to go through 2 moons just to sandwich this eclipse for more understanding of what it could be about. 18 months ago, we had the new moon phase of this entire cycle. This was on February 27th of 2025 when we had the new moon at 9 degrees of Pisces. This moon here ruled by Jupiter, is in detriment in this sign of Gemini, and it's also conjunct Aldebaran, which is another royal fixed star, the Watcher of the East. This new moon was approaching a square to Jupiter, so the dispositor of this moon, they're in a square to each other. The birth of something new to bring wisdom and hidden truth by word of mouth, to birth a new project, but perhaps the integrity with Aldebaran is questionable. Perhaps it must be ended or released or altered. Maybe at this point we were focused on exploration. Perhaps we birthed a seed under an old belief system. Because if we look at Uranus, it was still in Taurus here. Saturn and Neptune were still in Pisces. And both of these are feminine signs. And now the outer planets are in masculine signs. So actively enforcing our boundaries and chasing hidden information as if it's our divine purpose. Jupiter can be idealistic as well. And the sun and moon are in a superior position to this Jupiter in this square. Could be focused on humanitarian crises. Jupiter is a planet of publishing as well. So more work on social media, maybe learning curves here, scattered thinking, skimming over the details. Could be superficial and vain. But blending concepts. Jupiter is a good blender of concepts. I'm seeing a massive file cabinet for Jupiter and Gemini. A massive file cabinet of information. But the job would be to prioritize that information because everything seems like it's of equal importance. So maybe in this full moon stage that we have currently, we can maybe see this moment here a little bit clearer. This moon here was also conjunct Cassandra. She's a prophet. She has visions, but no one believes her. She's lacking grounded evidence. She sees her vision through her sharp intuition. So no one believes her. She's lacking grounded evidence. It's interesting because now we have the moon during this lunar eclipse conjunct Metis, asteroid Metis, the goddess of wisdom, for strategic intelligence and turning knowledge into effective plans. So potentially the information that we were lacking last time, the truth that we were missing last time, we can receive now with this lunar eclipse. Now that we're in a space where we have more clarity, more exposure towards the seed that we were birthing. If we look ahead of this lunar eclipse, 9 months ahead, at the 3/4 moon stage, I thought this one was interesting this time to check the 3/4 moon stage. This is our auditing stage where we're processing the information that we gathered from the full moon. The full moon will be more of those external results, and now we're here for an internal review, so to speak. Now that everything is settled from the full moon, we can see what we've manifested, what's worth keeping and what's worth removing, severing. This square aspect ruled by Mars. This is where we integrate that wisdom from the full moon, the secrets of the full moon. And over these next 9 months, we close out this 36-month cycle. So at this 3/4 moon stage, this is May 28th of 2027. The sun is in Gemini here, and it's square the moon in Pisces at 7 degrees. The moon's dominant in this aspect. But Mercury, the ruler of the sun here, is out of bounds. So it doesn't want to listen. It's also in its own domicile, so it doesn't really want to listen to this moon. Gemini and Pisces, it reminds me of getting lost, losing direction. The moon separating from an opposition to Mars in Virgo. The moon separating from a square to Uranus. The sun conjunct Uranus. Also trine Pluto and sextile Neptune. This Uranus-Sun conjunction is in a T-square with this Moon-Mars opposition. This moon is also ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is sitting 6 degrees away from the South Node in Leo. Jupiter is also approaching a trine to Saturn as well. That's interesting, the same aspect we're dealing with now. Venus is approaching a square to Jupiter. Venus is in domicile, but it's conjunct Okiro, and Jupiter is conjunct Cassandra. Again, Cassandra. Truth tellers. Both of them were truth tellers, but they were punished for it. They knew the truth, they knew the future, they saw visions, but they were powerless to really do anything about it. Even though they spoke on some of their visions, it didn't change anything. It highlights the burden of keeping secret information, sitting back and watching it play out. So it can refer to whistleblowers, to people who muster the courage to speak up, but perhaps it feels like you're talking to an empty room. Or it's Plato's allegory of the cave again, speaking to a crowd that won't listen. I'm thinking of the wisdom from the discovery chart of Uranus, picking our timing, having the discernment to properly prioritize. The massive amounts of information that comes in with this Uranus and Gemini aspect. For effectiveness, we want to be heard. We want the message to be heard. So we have to make it more digestible for the sensitive palates that are here. Also add metos. This trans-Neptunian object is here, conjunct Uranus and the Sun at 5 degrees Gemini. For depth, for raw material, for the reality, known for slowdowns, delays, slow growth, endurance, compressing experience into lasting form. This is the foundation from which everything is constructed. And that's interesting. Now, sitting in Gemini, it indicates that it all starts with the thoughts. Thoughts lead to the words that we speak, which leads to actions and plans and behaviors. So it all starts with thought. This is the foundation. So maybe altering thoughts, shifting thoughts about our purpose, about our identity, our career. It can deal with the demands of the physical world. And I think about that inventor aspect of Uranus, inventing something new for the betterment of the collective. It must fit the limitations of our reality. And this can sometimes slow things down. Sometimes I think about Nikola Tesla and how he says that he works everything out in his mind before he tries it out, in reality. But some things are just, some things you just have to test them and see what elements fit. Sometimes you can't gather all the elements that you need either. Sometimes this is not possible to fix all the mistakes in your mind first. Admetos can be about stripping away all the non-essential elements of this purpose that we have, making sure that our ego does not hijack our purpose. Uranus can also be revelations, a prophetic nature of Pisces here too. Uranus can intellectualize, while Admetos can ground it, potentially giving what was missing at that new moon phase, maybe not having that grounded evidence. maybe not having that grounded evidence. Maybe this is where we find it here. Uranus can intellectualize. So the grounded facts of Admetos may be more clinical and scientific language, with it being in the air sign here. The square to Mars, so it's more penetrating language, more detective work, deep knowledge about a particular topic. In fact, the moon here at this 3/4 stage, it conjuncts the asteroid Euryclea, asteroid 195. In the Odyssey, she raises both Odysseus and his son Telemachus. When Odysseus returns from battle after 20 years, he comes back in a disguise. He comes back as a beggar, just to see what's been happening around his kingdom while he's been away. He comes back to find multiple suitors occupying his home and flirting with his wife, pushing her into marriage, using his personal items. As Euryclea is there washing the beggar's feet, she notices a familiar hunting scar. She knows it's him. He warns her to keep this secret or face death. This would ruin his plans, revealing of a secret that changes fate. She keeps his secret, and she helps him to trap the suitors later on in the story. She finds the truth in a different way than Okuro and Cassandra. She finds the truth here through observation, through memory, through the physical evidence here. She also knows the value of proper timing. Meanwhile, Cassandra and Okuro were just telling the secrets and threatening fate, threatening divine timing and order, maybe without care. Sometimes that can be Uranus too, the telling of secrets just to create chaos. And with the sun here for attention, potentially. So it could be those shadows creeping up. The South Node in Leo here, too. That could be a shadow of this transit. For attention, saying something, revealing secrets. So Euryclea here, she knows the value of proper timing to contain that sensitive information until the most effective time for appropriate impact. Because information can be dangerous in the wrong hands, right? Don't they say loose lips sink ships? This reminds me so much of this Uranus discovery chart that we looked at in a video prior. And soon we'll be dealing with the Mars square to this Uranus conjunction. This Mars-Uranus conjunction that we had on July 3rd will be experiencing its square on December 3rd. And next year, when Mars goes through its retrograde through the sign of Virgo back to Leo, it also goes over this point. So we'll have this conjunction happening 3 times. So I think it's beneficial too now to just jot down some things that had occurred July 3rd, this time period, maybe a week prior, a week after, just to cushion it, just to see what topics came up and to see what can come up towards the end of the year here, when we experience the first square to Uranus on December 3rd. So thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like the video. Bye.